The leather-bound journal felt wrong in my hands, its pages heavy with secrets I was never meant to know. I found it tucked behind the filing cabinet while searching for our mortgage documents. Ryan's private thoughts spilling across cream-colored pages in his precise handwriting. I'm Chelsea, and until 10 minutes ago, I thought I understood my marriage. What are you doing? Ryan's voice cut through the silence of our home office. I didn't look up, my eyes fixed on a passage that made my stomach turn. I think I should be asking you that question. My voice came out steadier than I felt. Who's Amanda? He crossed the room in 3 quick strides, reaching for the journal. I pulled it away, pressing it against my chest. That's private. Private like the weekend meetings you've been having with her? The words tasted bitter. The ones your mother arranged? His face drained of color. You're taking things out of context. Mom was just trying to help with my career. By setting you up with other women? I flipped to another page. There's more than Amanda in here, Ryan. There's Jessica from the country club, Sarah from your mother's church group. Those were business meetings. He ran his fingers through his hair, a nervous tell I'd seen 1,000 times before. Mom knows everyone in real estate. She's building my network. I laughed, but it sounded more like a sob. Is that what we're calling emotional affairs now? Networking? You're being dramatic. He reached for the journal again. Give it to me. No. I stood up, my chair scraping against the hardwood. I want to know why your mother gets to orchestrate your love life when you're married to me. She's not. He stopped, jaw clenching. Mom just wants what's best for me. What's best for you? I read from the page. Karen says Chelsea's holding me back. Maybe she's right. That's what you wrote 3 months ago, Ryan. 3 months ago, while I was planning Tyler's 4th birthday party with your mother, pretending everything was fine. The sound of small feet padding down the hallway made us both freeze. Tyler appeared in the doorway, clutching his stuffed dinosaur. Mommy? Daddy? Why are you yelling? Ryan moved first, scooping up our son. Everything's fine, buddy. Mommy and Daddy are just having a grown-up talk. I watched them, my heart breaking at how easily the lies came to him now. How many times had he picked up our son after spending afternoons with these other women? How many times had Karen, my mother-in-law, orchestrated these meetings while playing the doting grandmother? I'll put him back to bed, Ryan said, not meeting my eyes. We're not done here. I held up the journal. Not even close. He paused at the door, Tyler's head resting on his shoulder. What do you want me to say? I want you to explain why your mother has more influence over our marriage than I do. My voice cracked. I want you to tell me why you've been writing about leaving me for months instead of talking to me. Mom says, I don't care what Karen says. I caught myself, lowering my voice for Tyler's sake. I'm your wife, Ryan, not her. He looked at me then, and I saw something shift in his eyes. Not guilt or remorse, but resignation. You've never understood my relationship with my mother. No, I said quietly. I understood it perfectly. I just didn't want to believe it. As he carried Tyler back to bed, I sank into the chair, the journal open in my lap. Pages of betrayal, of Karen's careful manipulation, of my husband's growing emotional distance, all documented in his own hand. The truth I'd been too blind to see was right here, written in black ink on cream paper. My phone buzzed. A text from Karen. Coming over tomorrow to discuss Tyler's preschool options. Don't make any decisions without me. I stared at the message, something cold and hard forming in my chest. For 4 years, I'd tried to be the perfect daughter-in-law, the understanding wife. But as I sat there, surrounded by evidence of their betrayal, I realized it was time to stop understanding and start fighting back. Let Karen come tomorrow. I had some decisions of my own to make. Karen arrived precisely at 9, wearing her signature pearl necklace and a smile that never reached her eyes. I watched her sweep into our kitchen like she owned it, setting down a stack of preschool brochures with the authority of a general planning an invasion. I've already narrowed it down to 3 options. She tapped perfectly manicured nails against glossy paper. The Montessori program is my first choice. Much better connections than that little place you mentioned. I stood at the counter, coffee cup white-knuckled in my grip, Ryan's journal burning a hole in my desk upstairs. Tyler's happy where he is. Happy isn't everything, dear. She reached for my coffee pot without asking. Ryan wasn't always happy with his choices, but look where my guidance got him. The double meaning wasn't lost on me. I watched her pour her coffee, remembering passages from the journal about arranged lunches and strategic introductions to eligible women. Speaking of guidance, how's Amanda doing these days? The coffee pot paused mid-pour. Karen's eyes flickered to mine, sharp and calculating. I'm not sure I know who you mean. Really, Ryan seems to know her quite well. The silence stretched between us like a tripwire. Karen set down the pot with deliberate care. If you're implying something, Chelsea, you should say it directly. Fine. I pulled Ryan's journal from the drawer beside me and placed it on the counter. Let's talk about how you've been orchestrating my husband's social life. Her expression didn't change, but something shifted in her posture, a predator sensing challenge. Ryan showed me that journal last night. He's quite upset about your invasion of his privacy. Of course he did. The betrayal felt fresh all over again. Did he show you the parts where he writes about leaving me, or just the parts that make me look bad? Chelsea. She stepped closer, voice dropping to that maternal tone I'd grown to hate. Marriage is complicated. Sometimes people need guidance to make the right decisions. The right decisions? I laughed. Like meeting other women behind my back? Business connections? Don't. My voice cracked. Don't pretend this is about business. You've been trying to break us up since day one. Karen sighed, reaching across the counter to pat my hand. I pulled away before she could touch me. You're emotional right now. We should discuss this when you're thinking more clearly. I'm thinking perfectly clearly. I opened the journal to a marked page. June 15th. Mom says Chelsea's too focused on her career to be a proper wife and mother. July 3rd. Had lunch with Jessica again. Mom's right. There are other options. I looked up. Want me to keep going? Those are Ryan's private thoughts. Her voice held a warning. You're only hurting yourself by dwelling on them. No, these are your thoughts planted in Ryan's head. You've been poisoning my marriage for years. The mask slipped for just a moment, revealing something cold and satisfied in her eyes. If your marriage is so easily poisoned, perhaps it wasn't meant to last. Before I could respond, Ryan walked in. He stopped short, taking in the scene, the journal, Karen's presence, my barely contained rage. What's going on? Your wife is having a bit of a meltdown, Karen said smoothly. She's been reading things she shouldn't. Ryan wouldn't look at me. I told you to give me the journal back, and I told you we weren't done discussing it. I turned to face him fully. Tell her, Ryan. Tell your mother about Amanda, about Jessica. Tell her how you've been lying to all of us. The only person lying here is you, Karen cut in. To yourself, about your place in this family. Ryan still wouldn't meet my eyes. Maybe you should go stay with your sister for a few days. Clear your head. The betrayal was complete. I looked between them, mother and son, united in their deception, and felt something inside me harden into resolve. You know what? You're right. I need some time to think about my place in this family. I grabbed my keys and phone, leaving the journal on the counter. Let them have it. I had photos of every damning page. What about Tyler? Ryan called after me. He's at daycare until 5. I paused at the door. The daycare I chose? The one your mother hates. I met Karen's gaze one last time. You can't control everything forever. Her smile was arctic. We'll see about that, dear. As I walked out, I heard Ryan asking his mother what to do next. Her response followed me down the driveway. Don't worry, sweetheart. Mother knows best. They had no idea what was coming. Emily's downtown loft always felt like neutral territory, but today, even the familiar exposed brick walls couldn't calm my racing thoughts. She poured wine while I paced, my heels clicking against hardwood floors. You need to see this. I handed her my phone, open to a real estate listing. Karen's latest networking event. Emily scrolled through photos of a luxury open house. Wait. She zoomed in on a background figure. Is that Ryan? With Amanda. The name tasted like acid. At Karen's biggest property showing of the year. She's not even trying to hide it anymore. That manipulative witch. Emily set down her wine. But there's more, isn't there? You've got that look. I pulled up the company's financial records on my tablet. Perks of being a financial advisor with access to certain databases. Look at the property holdings. Karen's company is leveraged to the hilt. She's been taking out loans against Ryan's commission checks before he even earns them. Can she do that? She can when she's listed as the managing partner on his real estate license. I laughed bitterly. He probably signed the papers without reading them. Classic Ryan. My phone buzzed. Karen's number. I declined the call. She's destroying his career to keep him dependent on her, Emily said slowly. Does Ryan know? He wouldn't believe me if I told him. Another buzz. A text this time. I read it and felt my blood freeze. What is it? She's filing for grandparents' rights. My hands shook. She wants guaranteed visitation with Tyler. She's trying to legally bind herself to my son. Emily grabbed my phone. Given the unstable nature of your recent behavior? Is she serious? She's been planning this. The pieces clicked into place. The preschool thing, the constant interference. She's building a case. Chelsea. Emily's voice turned serious. There's something else you should know about Karen. Remember Lisa from the tennis club? Ryan's old girlfriend? The one before me? She didn't just break up with Ryan. Karen destroyed her. Emily leaned forward. Lisa was going to expose some shady deals at Karen's company. Suddenly, she lost her job, her reputation, everything. She moved across the country. My phone buzzed again. Ryan this time. Chelsea, Mom's trying to help. Just come home and we can work this out. I stared at the message, something cold and calculating taking root in my chest. Emily, you still have contacts at the title company? Yeah, why? I need to know every property Karen's company has touched in the last 5 years. Every transaction, every loan, every partner. You're going after her business? Emily looked concerned. That's playing with fire. She's trying to take my son. I pulled up Karen's company website. And I'm done being the understanding wife who looks the other way. What about Ryan? Ryan made his choice. I started typing notes. Karen wants to play games with my family? Fine, but she's about to learn that manipulation works both ways. Emily watched me work, worry creasing her brow. Just be careful. Karen doesn't fight fair. Neither will I. I showed her another document, Karen's signature on a questionable property transfer. See this date? It's the same day she was supposedly in Miami. The notary stamp is local. You think it's forged? I think Karen's been sloppy. I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. She's so used to controlling everything. She's left traces, and I'm gonna find every single one. My phone lit up with another text from Ryan. Mom says if you don't come home tonight, she'll take it as abandonment. Please don't do this. I typed back. Tell your mother to check her email tomorrow morning. She might find some interesting questions from the real estate commission. What did you just do? Emily asked. Fired the first shot. I closed my laptop. Karen thinks she can use my son as leverage? I'll dismantle her empire piece by piece until she learns what it feels like to lose everything she loves. Chelsea, Emily touched my arm. Don't become her. I won't. I gathered my things. I'll be much, much worse. As I left Emily's loft, another text came through, from Karen this time. You're making a terrible mistake, dear. I smiled at my phone, thinking of the documents I'd already compiled, the weaknesses I'd found in her carefully constructed world. No, Karen, I whispered, the terrible mistake was yours. You should have never threatened my child. The envelope arrived unmarked, slipped under my sister Sarah's door where I'd been staying. Inside, photographs spilled across the kitchen counter like fallen leaves. Ryan and Amanda at restaurants, at hotels, at private showings of Karen's properties. The timestamps stretched back months, years. Some even predated Tyler's birth. Sarah picked up one photo, her face darkening. This isn't just emotional anymore. No. My voice sounded distant, even to myself. It never was. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Thought you should know the truth. There are more where these came from. Lisa, Karen's previous victim, reaching out from the shadows. The doorbell rang. Sarah checked the peephole and stepped back. It's Ryan. I gathered the photos quickly, tucking them into a drawer. Let him in. Ryan looked exhausted, his usual polished appearance fraying at the edges. Tyler's asking for you. Is that why you're here? Or did Karen send you? He flinched. Can we not do this? Just come home. We can work things out. Like you worked things out with Amanda? The words slipped out before I could stop them. His face changed, something guilty and angry flickering across it. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. I pulled one photo from the drawer, sliding it across the counter. This was taken 3 weeks before our wedding. Ryan stared at the image, color draining from his face. Where did you get this? Does it matter? There are dozens more. I watched him process this, wondering if he'd finally break free from Karen's influence. Your mother knew, didn't she? She probably arranged it. Chelsea? He reached for me, but I stepped back. It's complicated. It's really not. I pulled out my phone, showing him the email I'd drafted to the real estate commission. What's complicated is explaining these financial discrepancies in your mother's books, the ones with your signature on them. You're investigating my mother? His voice rose. This has nothing to do with her. It has everything to do with her. Sarah spoke up from the corner. She's been orchestrating this whole thing. Ryan's phone buzzed. He checked it, and I knew without asking it was Karen. I have to go. Of course you do. I turned away, throat tight. Tell your mother the grandparents' rights lawsuit won't work. I have enough evidence of interference to bury her. He paused at the door. Don't do this, Chelsea. You don't know what she's capable of. No, Ryan. She doesn't know what I'm capable of. After he left, Sarah touched my arm. Are you sure about this? Going after Karen means going after Ryan, too. Ryan made his choice. I pulled out my laptop, fingers hovering over the keyboard. But there's something not right about these photos. The timing, the anonymous delivery. My phone buzzed again. Emily this time. Turn on the news, now. Sarah grabbed the remote. The local business report filled the screen. Breaking news in the real estate world as allegations of fraud surface against prominent developer Karen Mitchell. Sources say the investigation centers around forged documents and misappropriated client funds. My hands shook as I opened my email. The draft I'd prepared about Karen's financial misconduct was still there, unsent. I didn't do this, I whispered. Sarah's eyes widened. Then who? Another text from the unknown number. Revenge is best served by someone who has nothing left to lose. Karen destroyed my life. Now it's your turn to finish what I started. L. I stared at the message, understanding dawning. Lisa hadn't just sent the photos as evidence. She'd been laying groundwork for months, maybe years, waiting for someone else to take up the fight. My phone rang, Karen's number. For the first time since this began, I answered. You think you're clever, she hissed, using Lisa's old accusations? I didn't start this, Karen, but I'll finish it. You have no idea what you're dealing with. Her voice turned silky. Did Ryan tell you about Tyler's trust fund, the one I control? The threat was clear. I ended the call, my mind racing. Karen wasn't just fighting for control anymore. She was fighting for survival, and she'd use anything, anyone as collateral damage. Sarah watched me, concern etched on her face. What are you going to do? I opened my laptop again, pulling up Karen's company records. I'm going to give Lisa exactly what she wants, and then I'm going to take everything Karen loves, piece by piece, starting with her reputation. The news continued in the background, Karen's empire beginning to crumble. But this was just the beginning. She'd taught me well. Sometimes the best revenge isn't swift or dramatic. Sometimes it's watching someone slowly lose everything they thought they controlled. The divorce papers landed on my desk like a declaration of war. Ryan's signature was still wet, the ink bleeding slightly at the edges. Karen had waited until Tyler's preschool graduation day to have them served, a calculated cruelty that shouldn't have surprised me anymore. You can't take him to the ceremony, Ryan said from the doorway of my office. Mom's already there, setting up. I kept my eyes on the papers. Tyler asked me to come. Chelsea. His voice softened, the tone he used when trying to manipulate me. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. Like you made things easier by sleeping with Amanda? I finally looked up. Or was that just another of your mother's networking opportunities? A muscle twitched in his jaw. I'm not discussing that. The papers are fair. Mom's lawyer made sure. Of course he did. I stood gathering my things. Your mother's lawyer, your mother's choice of mediator, your mother's terms. You're not being reasonable. Reasonable? I pulled out my phone, showing him the email I'd received that morning. Your mother just got appointed to Tyler's preschool board. Tell me how that's reasonable. He had the decency to look uncomfortable. She's trying to help. She's trying to control everything, like she always does. I moved past him toward the door. And you're letting her. Where are you going? To my son's graduation. I paused at the threshold. And if Karen tries to stop me, I'll show the board the proof of her fraudulent property deals. All of them. His face paled. You wouldn't. Try me. The preschool was decorated with paper chains and finger paintings, children's artwork displaying innocent dreams. Karen stood at the entrance, holding court among the other parents. Her smile faltered when she saw me. Chelsea, dear. Her voice carried across the playground. I thought we discussed this. No, you dictated. I decided not to listen. She gripped my arm, steering me away from curious onlookers. Don't make a scene. Think of Tyler. I am thinking of Tyler. I pulled free. I'm thinking about how you're trying to erase me from his life. You did that yourself when you started investigating my business. Her eyes hardened. Did you think I wouldn't find out about your little collaboration with Lisa? That stopped me cold. What are you talking about? Karen's smile turned predatory. Oh, you didn't know. Lisa works for one of my biggest competitors now. They'd love to see me fall. She leaned closer, signed the papers, accept the terms, or Tyler's trust fund won't be the only thing you lose. Mom? Ryan appeared behind us, Tyler in his arms. My son's face lit up when he saw me. Mommy, you came. I reached for him, but Karen stepped between us. Tyler, sweetheart, why don't you show Daddy your artwork? Mommy was just leaving. No. The word came out sharp enough to make heads turn. I'm staying for my son's graduation, and then you and I are going to discuss your definition of grandparental rights. Chelsea, Ryan started, and you. I turned to him. You need to decide right now. Are you going to let her control Tyler's life like she controlled yours? Karen's mask slipped for just a moment, revealing something desperate and angry beneath. Ryan, take Tyler inside. No. Ryan's voice was quiet but firm. For the first time in years, he stood his ground. Mom, this has to stop. The look Karen gave him could have frozen hell. Everything I've done has been for you. Has it? I pulled out my phone again, showing them both the screen. Because I just received some interesting documents about Tyler's trust fund. Care to explain why you're listed as the sole executor, Karen? With full discretionary powers? Ryan set Tyler down, his face darkening. What trust fund? The one your mother set up without telling either of us. I watched Karen's composure crack, using money from those questionable property deals. The school bell rang, calling children inside. Tyler hugged my legs before running to join his class, oblivious to the storm brewing around him. Karen straightened her pearls, a gesture I'd seen countless times before, but now her hands shook slightly. This isn't over. No, I agreed, watching her retreat into the school. But it will be soon. Ryan stayed behind, looking lost. Chelsea, I didn't know about the trust fund. You never knew about a lot of things. I handed him back the divorce papers, unsigned. But you're about to learn. The graduation ceremony was starting, children's voices raised in song. Soon I'd have to go inside, smile for photos, pretend everything was normal. But first, I sent one final text to Lisa. You were right. The trust fund was the key. Time for phase 2. The boardroom felt like a tomb, filled with the stale air of betrayal. I watched through the glass walls as Karen's real estate empire crumbled in real time, stock prices plummeting across digital displays. My anonymous tip about her fraudulent dealings had worked better than expected. Maybe too well. You've destroyed everything, Ryan said from the doorway, his voice hollow. The company's finished. Hundreds of people are losing their jobs. I kept my eyes on the screens. Your mother did that herself. Tell that to Amanda's kids. He threw a newspaper onto the table. Her husband lost their entire retirement fund in this crash. She's not the only one. The headline blurred before my eyes. Mitchell real estate scandal claims innocent victims. Below it, photos of families, employees, investors, all caught in the crossfire of my revenge. My phone buzzed. Lisa, phase 2 complete, ready for the final strike? Before I could respond, Karen swept into the room, her usual polish cracked, but not broken. Enjoying the show, dear? Actually, I am. The lie tasted bitter. Then you'll love the next act. She slid a document across the table. Tyler's trust fund wasn't the only account I controlled. Check your own portfolio. My hands shook as I read the papers. She'd somehow gained access to my clients' accounts. Relationships I'd built over years. All of them now tied to Karen's toxic investments. You're bluffing. Am I? She smiled, that practiced maternal warmth hiding venom. How many of your clients are already calling about their losses? How many know you're connected to this scandal? My phone started ringing, client names flashing one after another. Karen watched with satisfaction as I declined each call. You won't just lose your family, she continued. You'll lose your career, your reputation, everything you've worked for. Mom, stop. Ryan stepped forward. This has gone too far. Has it? She turned to him. Ask her about Lisa. Ask her how long they've been planning this together. Ryan's expression changed. Chelsea? I didn't, I started, but Karen cut me off. Show him the messages, dear. Show him how you and Lisa orchestrated this whole thing, how you used his pain as ammunition. My phone buzzed again. Lisa, Karen's making her move. Time to end this. But I couldn't move. The weight of collateral damage pressed down like lead. Amanda's family, my clients, innocent employees. This wasn't justice anymore. It was mutually assured destruction. Tyler's school called, Ryan said quietly. They're reviewing all board decisions made under Mom's influence, including his enrollment. The final twist of the knife. Karen's smile widened fractionally. You see, she said, you can't beat me without hurting everyone you love, including your son. My phone kept buzzing. Clients, the school, Lisa, all demanding answers I couldn't give. The screens showed more red numbers, more lives affected by my quest for revenge. What do you want? My voice sounded distant, defeated. Sign the divorce papers, accept the custody arrangement, walk away. Karen's voice softened to that dangerous maternal tone. Or watch everything burn. Ryan stood between us, looking lost. There has to be another way. There isn't. Karen gathered her papers. Chelsea made her choice. Now she can live with the consequences. She left us there, surrounded by digital displays of destruction. Ryan wouldn't look at me. Did you really work with Lisa? He asked finally. Does it matter anymore? He nodded slowly, understanding. I'll have the new papers delivered tomorrow. Mom's terms. After he left, I sat alone in the darkening boardroom. My phone lit up with another message from Lisa. Don't give up now. We're so close. I stared at the message for a long time before typing, It's over. You win, Karen. The response came immediately, but not from Lisa. Karen. I always do, dear. I always do. I looked out at the city lights, remembering Tyler's graduation, his innocent smile. Sometimes the price of revenge isn't just your soul. It's the collateral damage you never saw coming. My phone buzzed one final time. Emily, whatever you're thinking, don't give up. I found something about Karen's past, something big. I turned off the phone without reading further. Some truths aren't worth the cost of discovering them. Or so I thought until Tyler's photo appeared on my darkened screen, a reminder of what I was really fighting for. Emily's file landed on Karen's desk with a dull thud. Black and white hospital records from 30 years ago stared up at us, telling a story Karen had buried deep. Where did you get these? Karen's voice was ice, but her hands trembled as she touched the papers. The same place I found out about Michael. I watched her flinch at the name. Your first son, the one you lost. The mask cracked. For a moment I saw raw pain beneath Karen's polished exterior. Get out. He was 4, wasn't he? The same age as Tyler. I pressed on, even as she rose from her chair. That's why you're so obsessed with controlling everything. You couldn't control what happened to Michael, so you control everything else. You know nothing about loss. She gripped the edge of her desk. Nothing about protecting the people you love. I know you've been recreating your tragedy through Ryan, making him dependent, isolating him, just like Michael was isolated in that hospital. The sound of shattering glass made me jump. Karen's water tumbler lay in pieces at her feet, but she didn't seem to notice. Ryan needed me, she whispered. After what happened to Michael, I had to make sure. Had to make sure what? That he'd never leave you? That he'd always be your little boy? I pulled out more papers. Is that why you sabotaged his career? Why you drove away every woman before me? I protected him. You imprisoned him. The office door opened. Ryan stood there, Tyler clutching his hand. My heart stopped. Ryan. Karen's voice shifted to maternal concern. Take Tyler home. Chelsea and I are just. I heard everything. His voice was strange, distant. About Michael, about what you did to my career. Karen moved toward him, but he stepped back. Sweetheart, I can explain. Tyler. I kept my voice steady. Go wait with Aunt Sarah in the lobby, okay? After Tyler left, the silence grew thick with decades of manipulation and grief. You were never going to let me succeed on my own, were you? Ryan asked his mother. Every time I got close, you'd pull me back. I was protecting you. You were suffocating me. The force of his outburst made us both jump. Just like you're trying to suffocate Tyler now. Karen's composure shattered completely. I won't lose another child. I won't let him be taken away like Michael. Tyler isn't Michael, I said quietly, and Ryan isn't your second chance. She whirled on me, grief turning to rage. You think exposing this makes you win? I'll destroy everything you have left. Your career, your reputation. No. Ryan's voice cut through her threats. You won't. He crossed to her desk, picked up the hospital records. It's over, Mom. The control, the manipulation, all of it. Ryan, please. She reached for him, but he moved away. Everything I did was for you. No. His voice broke. Everything you did was for yourself, for the son you lost. But I'm not him, Mom. I never was. Karen sank into her chair, suddenly looking every bit her age. I just wanted to keep you safe. By destroying everyone else? I asked. By trying to control Tyler the same way? She looked up at me, and for the first time, I saw something real in her eyes. Not calculation or manipulation, but raw, ancient grief. I couldn't save Michael. Her words came out barely above a whisper. I couldn't control anything then, but I thought, if I could control everything else, you'd never feel that helpless again. Ryan finished. He looked at the hospital records, then at me. What happens now? I thought of Lisa's revenge plan, of all the evidence I could use to destroy Karen completely. But looking at her now, I saw something I hadn't before, a mirror of my own pain, twisted by years of unresolved grief. Now, I said, gathering the papers, we all learn to let go. Karen's laugh was hollow. Just like that? After everything? No. I met her gaze. You're going to get help, real help for Michael, and you're going to stay away from Tyler until you do. Or I release everything, not just about Michael, but about the fraud, the manipulation, all of it. I moved toward the door. Your choice, Karen, control or healing. You can't have both. As Ryan and I left, Karen called out one last time. Chelsea? I turned. I would have done anything to protect Michael. Her voice was raw. Remember that when Tyler's older. I will, I said. That's why I'm protecting him from you. The divorce papers sat unsigned on my kitchen counter, next to a letter from Karen's treatment center. 6 weeks of therapy had revealed wounds deeper than Michael's loss, wounds that explained her actions but didn't excuse them. Tyler's laughter drifted in from the backyard where he played with Ryan. Their relationship had shifted since Karen's breakdown, becoming something tentative but real. No more puppet strings, no more manipulated moments. He asked about her again, Ryan said, coming inside while Tyler continued playing. About Grandma. I traced the edge of Karen's letter. What did you tell him? That she's sick, that she needs time to get better. He leaned against the counter. Mom's therapist thinks she's making progress. And you? How are you doing with all this? Ryan's laugh held no humor. Turns out rebuilding your life is harder than letting someone else control it. The doorbell rang. Emily stood there with a thick folder, more evidence about Karen's past manipulations, ammunition I no longer needed. Lisa sent these, she said. She still wants to go public. I thought of Karen in therapy, finally facing Michael's ghost, of Ryan learning to make his own choices, of Tyler, innocent and unaware of how close we'd all come to destroying each other. Tell Lisa it's over. I took the folder. Some victories don't need an audience. Emily studied my face. You're really letting Karen off the hook? No. I watched Tyler through the window. I'm choosing not to become her. The folder joined Karen's letter on the counter. Ryan picked up the divorce papers, his expression unreadable. These terms, he said quietly, they're not Mom's anymore. No, they're ours. I met his gaze. Equal custody, no interference. Tyler deserves better than what we've been. And Karen? Gets supervised visits after completing treatment if she proves she can respect boundaries. Ryan nodded slowly. She won't like it. She doesn't have to. I gathered the evidence folder. But she'll accept it, or these go public. Manipulation with a touch of blackmail. His smile was sad. We learned from the best. The difference is, we're using it to protect Tyler, not control him. The doorbell rang again. Sarah stood there with a box of my old photos, memories Karen had tried to erase from the family history. Found these in Ryan's storage unit, she said. Karen had them hidden away. I lifted out a picture of Tyler's first steps, a moment Karen had tried to stage manage, but we'd captured naturally instead. The joy on his face was pure, unscripted. You know, Ryan said, looking at the photo, Mom never let me fall, not once. She was always there, controlling every step. Tyler needs to fall sometimes, I replied. That's how he'll learn to get back up. We watched our son playing outside, his world still whole despite our broken pieces. The evidence folder felt heavy in my hands, a weapon I could use, but chose not to. I'll never forgive her completely, I said finally. I know. Ryan signed the divorce papers with steady hands, but maybe that's not the point. What is the point? Breaking the cycle. He looked at Tyler, making sure he never has to choose between love and freedom. I added my signature to the papers, making our separation official. But as I watched Ryan join Tyler in the yard, I realized something Karen never understood. Real love doesn't need to be controlled. It grows stronger in freedom. The evidence folder went into the fireplace, Karen's letter with it. As they burned, I thought about revenge and justice, about the fine line between protecting and controlling, about how sometimes the greatest victory isn't in destroying your enemy, but in refusing to become them. Tyler's laughter floated in again, accompanied now by Ryan's. Simple joy, unscripted and real. Karen had tried to orchestrate every moment of her son's life, never understanding that the most beautiful moments are the ones we can't control. I kept one photo from the box, Tyler's first steps, not as a reminder of what Karen tried to take, but of what we chose to save, the chance for our son to walk his own path, even if it meant watching him fall sometimes. The ashes of Karen's letter curled in the fireplace, taking with them the last temptation of revenge. Some ghosts, I realized, don't need to be exorcised. They just need to be acknowledged, then released. Outside, Tyler stumbled, got back up, and kept running, free.